Any support for Taiwan independence violates international law, at least according to Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi, who claims that Taiwan's status has been sealed with 7 locks. The never-before-used phrase was introduced by Wang during the meeting with his German counterpart Johann Waterfall in Beijing, pointing to 7 historical and legal references to argue that Taiwan has been part of China since ancient times. While Waterfall himself made no reference to the so-called 7 locks afterwards, the remarks quickly triggered strong reactions in Taiwan.
我们可以看到，中方他所谓的锁定，实际上应该可以解读成他持续惯性的扭曲相关的国际文件，并且呢只说对自己有利的地方，其他不服中方立场的呢则一概否认。那必须要说，如果是这样子的锁定的话，即便是锁定了700次或7000次，也不会成真。
Xiao's reaction highlights how sharply contested Beijing's claims are, but the real question is, when we follow the debate on 7 locks, are we examining history or stepping into Beijing's narrative framework? If history alone cannot determine sovereignty, what's missing from the discussion? And when Taiwan becomes the issue on the table, is the deeper question really about who, Washington or Beijing, defines the post-war order? To unpack all this, today I'm joined by Zheng Weifeng, Associate Research Fellow, Institute of International Relations, National Zhengzhi University, and Chen Fangyu, Suzhou University Political Science Associate Professor. Welcome, both of you, to the studio today.
Thank you.
So, Weifeng, it's almost like Wang Yi is giving his German counterpart a bit of a history lesson, right? So what is he really trying to do with this lecture?
I think, like the meeting has been postponed. So it must be, Wang Yi must say something important after the postponed meeting. So it means like, I think it is a goal. Wang Yi is representing China's current goal to make their claim over Taiwan in international community. So I think they are trying to have the legitimacy, over Taiwan. They want to cement their claim, on Taiwan's sovereignty. So the 7 locks, Wang Yi says 7 locks. It means like they are trying to rewrite the historic book and the legal rule book. So Wang Yi says 7 locks to educate the German's counterparts. It means that Wang Yi, the statement must be designed, carefully designed and strategically. So I think Wang Yi is doing this. Is not doing this alone. It represents China's end at Taiwan sovereignty in international community, especially this year. I think this year China is changing its playbook. In the past, China used like diplomatic pressures on Taiwan, but this year, China is really working really hard in, inserting their ideas of Taiwan sovereignty. Taiwan is part of China in international community, especially in international law.
And before we get to the substance of 7 locks, I want to talk about the naming of it. I have to say 7 locks, I could almost imagine this term could conjure up images among our foreign audiences. It almost reminds them of this mysterious Eastern, or it's like a final move for a movie, right? 七重锁定. I have to admit, it's a really effective communication strategy. So what's your take on this?
I think it's a very clever strategy because before, China always used the UN resolution 25, this is a very long term, and we have some 3 tomes on staying the UN resolution, right? So this is a very short and very abbreviated term to say this. However, they just purposely missed one of the most important part, that is the Treaty of San Francisco. So for me, no matter it is 7 locks, 700 or 7,000 locks, then if you are missing the San Francisco Treaty, then it does not has anything to do with Taiwan sovereignty.
First, let's take a quick look at what Beijing actually means by 7 locks. I won't go through them one by one. You can see the documents on the screen. But I believe it's composed of 3 layers of argument. World War II era documents like Cairo, Potsdam, and Japan's surrender to argue that Taiwan was returned after the war. And second, he cites the UN resolution, as Professor Chen has pointed out, that recognizes Beijing as China's representative and reads Taiwan into that decision. And third, it refers to US-China communiques and China's own domestic laws to argue that even Washington operates within this framework. So taken together, history, international institution, and modern diplomacy, all of this points to one same claim Beijing is making, which is Taiwan status is already settled, while Taiwan's premier sees it very differently. Watch.
中华民国台湾是一个完完全全的主权独立的国家，2300万的国人没有回归的这个选项。
So when we argue over which historical documents say what or define or Taiwan status or not, are we really talking about history, or have we already stepped into this narrative framework that Beijing has set up?
Yeah, I think, of course, framing is important. So Beijing is trying to frame, the international discussion about the status of Taiwan, and it wants the international community, all the countries, accept their statement. For example, their 7 logs argument. But in my opinion, sovereignty isn't just land, isn't just histories. It is more important to see the final puzzle piece, which is recognition. So international recognition. So in my opinion, it is more than a friend competition. I think it is more again a power. So I think it's like Beijing wants to get the power to dictate the truth. So so when we talk about these historical documents, when we argue that which document should be included, which document should not, we are not just like fall into the trap of Beijing's framing competition. We are more like arguing about the past. So we are kind of fighting for the authority to define the reality. So this is more important. But like sovereignty is more about power recognition. You need international recognition to have the real sovereignty. So, so I think Beijing now, their operation now is like they want to make the international recognition on Taiwan in their favor. They want their story become the true story in international community.
So we've talked about what 7 logs include. Let's turn to what's been left out. Interestingly, one major document missing from Beijing's 7 logs is the Treaty of San Francisco, as Professor Chen has touched upon. Many analysts note that unlike wartime declarations like Cairo or Potsdam, which were political statements, the San Francisco Treaty is a legally binding post-war peace agreement and therefore carries real weight in international law. And Beijing, however, has long rejected that interpretation.
我们从来没有承认过旧金山合约中有关台湾主权归属等任何涉及中国作为非缔约国的领土和主权权利的处置，从来没有接受过。
So my question for Professor Chen, as you have pointed out, that I think the concept of 7 logs has been really carefully fabricated. So I believe the missing of the San Francisco Treaty is also a deliberate choice. So why do you think China made that choice?
Well, China always doing the so-called the strategy of selective succession. That before they always stress that the People's Republic of China just succeeded all the rights and obligation of ROC, the Republic of China, after the Civil War. So, but they only selectively succeed what they want, and they just do not want to succeed what they don't want. That is the San Francisco Treaty. So it is well. For a lot of people who study international law, we all know that this claim is not legitimate. However, they are now just rewrite the history and saying that, oh, we just succeed everything from the previous ROC. And they just claim that ROC is succeeded and just be turned over by PRC in 1949. So that is their whole strategy. And before, they always stress the UN resolution in 1971, but they just now turning back to 1945. A lot of the documents, is before or around 1945. So this is now their new strategy. And also they are challenging the international order right now. So they're challenging to the U.S., the Germans, and Japan right now. So they have a very new strategy than before.
So wait, the reason Beijing says it doesn't recognize the San Francisco Treaty is because it didn't sign it.
Yeah.
So the fact that it didn't sign it make it invalid or disappear, or does it really actually complicate Beijing's claims?
Yeah, so, like, it's formal reason. I mean, they gave the formal reason that because they are not part of it, so they don't recognize it. But I think the most important, if you look at the 7 logs, it's actually a logical chain from, there's a missing time in 7 logs from 1950 to 1971. So the document in this period, they don't acknowledge, they don't recognize. Why? Because it will sabotage their logical chain.
Wow, sabotage is a really strong word.
Because they have 3-step theory of Taiwan status. First, Taiwan has been returned to China. Second, the People's Republic of China is the only legal representative of China. And third, so it means China is part of PRC. So it's there. So it's a logical chain. So
I think that's the logic behind the 7 logs framework.
Yeah, sure. So so if that is the case, if they acknowledge Treaty of San Francisco, it means that they approve the idea that Japan renounced the sovereignty of Taiwan, but Japan never handed to anyone, no one, not China, according to the document. And the most important, there is a follow-up treaty, which is the Treaty of Taipei, signed by the ROC and Japan in 1952. It means that Taiwan actually, ROC actually, I mean, in the treaty, I think the treaty has been, terminated by Japan in 1970. But the thing is, in the treaty, there's a article saying that all the residents in the island in Taiwan are the resident of ROC. So the linkage of these treaties. So China just cannot afford to acknowledge it, to say like, okay, we agree with this. So it's more strategically. It's not just like the formal reason. Their reason behind is that it will sabotage, it will like harm their claim over Taiwan's sovereignty.
So Wei Feng also brought up a very crucial question: is that the San Francisco Treaty announced that Japan will renounce the sovereignty over Taiwan, but without specifying its recipient.
Yeah.
So does that silence, or sometimes I would say limbo, still matter today? And is it solvable by any chance? What's your take on this?
I think for me, the history between 1945 to 1952 are very complicated. So if we date it back to 1945, then Taiwan has never been turning back to China, because that time Taiwan is a UN trustee territory, and it's designated to Chiang Kai-shek, but not, I mean, there's no transfer of the sovereignty of Taiwan and Penghu that time. However, Chiang Kai-shek and PRC, they always insist that, in 1945, then Taiwan has been returned to China. That makes everything just very complicated. But in fact, there's no transfer of sovereignty that time. And then in the San Francisco Treaty, we say that Japan just formally just renounced the sovereignty of Taiwan, but no recipient. And then we can say that in that time, ROC, Republic of China, then just have a de facto or legal status of the owning the Taiwan sovereignty. So it is complicated that, and China just utilized this to claim the sovereignty over Taiwan.
So far, we've been talking about narratives, legal arguments, and interpretation, but debates over Taiwan's legal status often lead to one place, the United States. I guess that's unavoidable because it's a game of play, a power. So how Washington situates Taiwan within the post-war order is very crucial. That perspective has at times been stated quite explicitly by U.S. officials.
Taiwan has not been a part of China, and that was recognized with the work that the Reagan administration did to lay out the policy that the United States has adhered to now for 3.5 decades, and done so under both administrations.
And even with Washington's position on the record, Beijing operates not only through legal or diplomatic channels, it also acts on the ground, most visibly through Justice Mission 2025. It's the largest and most extensive war games the PLA has conducted around Taiwan to date, with operations covering multiple sea and air zones. So, Wei Feng, is Justice Mission 2025, which is still ongoing by the time we're recording, best understood as a military signal to Taiwan, or as a broader message that how Beijing is trying to sell its signals or stories to the international audiences or other powers in the international arena?
Yeah. Okay, so before answering the questions, I would say like justice is just the name. It's not like
also the naming of it.
It's not meaning of it. So so we should know like it's called Justice Mission. It's not a real justice mission. So I think the thing is, the mission. Of course, it is absolutely bigger than just Taiwan. It's more about the post-war order, and I think the military drill is a warning shot fire over Taiwan's head, directly aimed at United States and Japan.
So you think Taiwan is not a final target, it's just a trigger?
Yeah, so I think that's the case. And I think Beijing is drawing the red line to, telling them to stay out.
Oh, how do you define them? The United States?
United States and Japan. So it's like
Japan as well.
It's not just like targeting at Taiwan, it's more than Taiwan. So of course, so if that is the case, I think Beijing is trying to, like I say, draw a red line and using their military muscles to tell Japan and the United States and all other countries that would support Taiwan or Taiwan's independence to stay out. So if that is the case, we would say that Beijing is using military muscles to, to say that the era of American dominance is over, and they are ready to rewrite the rule.
So if that's the case, do you think people in Taiwan should be extra worried compared to previous routine military drills?
I don't think previously there's a routine military drills. I think their drills are all strategic and goal-oriented. For example, like when our President Lai has the inauguration speeches, Beijing then have the military drill, and after the national days, the PLA has the military drills.
So you're saying the previous ones are only like show of force?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's like intimidating the people, not the people, intimidating the government in Taiwan, also the international friends of Taiwan.
Okay, I think that slip of the tongue is pretty interesting because not the people, I think somehow that reflects the attitude of people on this island because it happens so frequently that people began turning indifferent to it. But my question is that for this one, if it's different in any ways, should we be concerned or paying close attention to?
I think we should be concerned because I think this military drill is a little bit different from past. It's more like a combination of different forms of their clan. So they have, like 7 locks, then they have military drills. I think they are all combined together to show their, their positions towards international community that, you cannot touch this island. You cannot touch the water around this island.
So Fang Yu, as Professor Zhen has pointed out, we have 2 war battlefields working parallel. One is 7 locks, or the narrative, or the reasoning of the historical background. One is show of force, or even military pressure, or this time maybe a little bit real deal compared to previous ones. How does the change that space Taiwan to assert its own agency, or to define or what we should do or to react to this scenario at this turning point between 2025 to 2026?
Well, before answering this, I want to emphasize that this time is a little bit different because this time is the first time that China emphasized the anti-foreign interference in the military drill. So before we don't see this. Before they always specifically target Taiwan, but this time they just in their statement they want to they claim that they are anti-foreign interference. Also, they are collaborating with Russia. So Russia also have announced the 2 or 3 months long of the military drill around northern part of Japan. So they are showing the muscles and showing the so-called dictatorship alliance. So that is what we have to concern. Another thing we have to concern is just answering your question. Also, another concern domestically is we observe a polarized public opinion in Taiwan. That is, more and more people in Taiwan just resonate China's claim that, oh, it is all Taiwan's fault, it's all US fault, to irritate China or something like that. But we also have to know that it is China that is trying to change the status quo, not Taiwan, not the US. But that is part of the story we have to emphasize. Also, we have to emphasize our democratization. After the long history, since 1990s, Taiwan has been democratized and become a full-fledged democracy. And now we are defending against the dictatorship. So that is a story Taiwan must tell the world.
Okay, so my final question for both of you, as you have pointed out, if Taiwan has become the battleground for the post-war order between major powers in the world, namely China, the United States, or Japan, how do you think, because this military exercise will end maybe just, it's a matter of days, right? But how do you think the situation will play out maybe for the year to come or in the near future, Wei Feng?
I think China or Beijing will be continuing doing this, combined tactics towards Taiwan. They are squeezing Taiwan space, literally, and also in international community, using those diplomatic pressures. So I think next year, China will do the same. But next year, I think their measures will be even harsher. And I think their tools will be, more multiplied, and they will continue to intimidate.
So if Beijing won't back down, I would say we have to talk about the attitudes of the United States and Japan. For now, you can see Trump, I think he's trying to play down the whole situation, saying that he was not informed beforehand, nor was he concerned. While Japan, we don't know for sure for now, but judging from the previous responses from Takaichi Sanae, she, is pretty strong as well. So in the end, I think either one of them has to do something, right? So if you think if China won't back down, how would they react in terms of the United States and Japan's reactions?
I think there will be, finally there will be a red line. Red line.
Which both sides won't cross.
Might be, won't cross. So I think that's the case. That's the case. I don't think in the near future the red line will be crossed by any parties. But we don't know. We don't know. So I think maybe Japan and United States, they will try to calm down the situation a little bit to, have, recently the United States and China, they have a really, really good interaction. They have a lot of military exchanges. So for Donald Trump saying that he does not worry about the situation, I think it's real.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think it's real because I think Donald Trump will have a lot of information about it because they have a lot of military exchanges. But the thing is, there will be a red line next year. I think Beijing will make a stronger positions to Japan and United States. This is a red line you cannot cross. But the problem is they might push the red line a little bit every month. So that is the case. So in the future, I would say there will be different conflict between the Western world and China, and I don't think there will be a large-scale war, but there will be different types of conflict in the future, and we will still living in this conflict-driven world.
What a way to start 2026.
Yeah.
And let's not forget, Trump plans to visit China early next year, right? So, Fang, what's your take on this, the general situation and the response from the United States and Japan?
Well, I think the structure of the great power competition will remain. So China will not change their goal of taking over the U.S. dominance in the world, and the U.S. will not give up the leadership of the Western democracies. And also Japan is a great power in this region, so they will not let China and Russia to just breach their national security. So that is the overall structure. And Taiwan must do more efforts to maintain the status quo. And we have our own advantages. So we have a very great economy and also the semiconductor industry. And also we are strengthening our ties with our allies. So I think we have to be very confident, and we have to believe that the best way of deterrence is to strengthening our own capability, and that is the history lessons for us.
Okay, so do what we can do and stay vigilant. So we have to wrap it up there. Thank you, our two guests, for coming to the show today. If you like the show, please subscribe to our channel to be notified when we upload a new video of Taiwan Talks. I'll see you next time.